Welcome, everyone, to the 21st episode of True Love. This is your host, Maya, and I hope you're having a beautiful day. Today's episode is titled, When You Know Better, You Should Do Better. If you're new here, glad to have you at the True Love podcast, where we apply the love mindset for personal growth. And to those of you returning, I appreciate your continued support. So let's jump right in to today's episode. When you know better, you should do better. Now, I want us to take a moment to think about today's title. When you know better, you should do better. And the reason I chose that title for today's episode is because there is a clear difference between knowing what to do and actually doing it. So if you ever feel like you know what to do, but you're having difficulty doing what you know you should, you're not alone. It happens to all of us. And it's not an issue of knowing what to do. It's an application issue. And before we dive deep into this topic, I'd like us to define some key words so that we can understand the differences between these words and what they truly mean. And by getting the true definition of these words, we can now gain a better understanding of what we need to change to make sure that we can actually do better after knowing what we should do. And as with all episodes, I am here to give you a different perspective, and you can take away whatever truths or perspectives or facts from today's episodes that you choose to apply to your love mindset journey. And since my faith is biblically based, I am going to be backing up everything we talk about here based on my faith. So we're going to be applying some scriptures to back up everything that is said here. So let's just jump right in to today's episode. Let's start with the first definition. I'd like to define the word knowledge. So knowledge, definition 1, facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education. The theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. Definition 2, awareness or familiarity gained by experience of a fact or situation. So let's break down what this means. It means that for you to have knowledge, you have obtained facts, information, or acquired skills through a person. So it could be a friend, a parent, an aunt and uncle, or through an experience. You went through something, so now you have learned and you know what you should do. You've gained facts, information, acquired skills through this experience and this situation, or you learned what to do. So like going to school, going to college, taking a course. You now have acquired this skill because you got the education that you needed to have this knowledge. It also means theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. So if you have practical understanding of a subject, let's say math, you have knowledge of math. In this case, you could be a math tutor because you know math so well that you can help teach others or help them to get their skills up in this subject. So that's having knowledge, that first definition. Second definition is awareness or familiarity gained by experience of a fact or situation. So this one is more, you know what to do because you've gained it through experience. You went through it personally. You went through it yourself, so you know not from a hypothetical point of view, but from an actual real life point of view. And this is important because what sometimes children seem to forget, and I tell my children this all the time, they look at you as parents. Now, I know that, they know that you started off as a baby too, but I feel like sometimes they forget that you were once a child, that you were once a teenager. You once went through these same things. Yes, things may be different now because you have cell phones, internet, and access to technology at your fingertips that maybe I may not have had when I was a child. However, we still go through the same experiences. We still have to learn about ourselves, solidify our identity, deal with the peer pressure and the cultural trends and all the things that go with growing up. There's all these outside influences as you're trying to solidify your identity. So I have to tell my children sometimes when they come to me with a situation and I'm like, oh, I went through this. I know exactly what you should do. Now, you might have to apply it a little different because now it's different. You have technology, you got all these other means of communication. So you may have to apply it differently, but it still has the same basic concept of what you need to do, right? So that's also another way, like life experience is also a way that you can get knowledge. Now, I want us to consider another word, wisdom. So let's define wisdom. So wisdom is defined as the ability to apply knowledge, experience, and good judgment to make sound, thoughtful decisions, often with a deep understanding of human nature and long-term consequences. It's also the quality of being wise. Now, the reason that we're bringing up knowledge and wisdom, and I want us to think about it for a minute. To have knowledge is the first part of today's title. It means you know better. And wisdom is the application of that knowledge. So when you know better, you should do better. When you know what to do, you should apply and move on what to do. So when you know better, you should do better. That is you applying knowledge, which shows that you are wise. You have the quality of being wise. You know what to do for this situation, and you actually do what is required and needed for that said situation. So if you want to have a deeper understanding of what wise means, let's define wise just as an added bonus. Wise means having or showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment. So when you have the quality of being wise, that's what you're doing. You're showing you have experience and knowledge and good judgment when it comes to various situations. You're applying your knowledge in real time. You're applying it to your life. So you don't just say what you should do, you actually do what you should do. And I want us to think about why we sometimes have a difficult time doing what we know we should do. Because remember, in the beginning of this episode, I said, there's a clear difference between knowing what to do and actually doing it. So why is it that sometimes in our lives we could know what to do and we have a hard time actually doing what we know we should do? And I think the answer is clear on this. And it may be different for other people, but I do believe there is a clear answer on this. There's a phrase that people like to say when it comes to things in life. Easier said than done. So it's easy to know what to do because you can obtain the knowledge, you can get the information, you can get the facts, and you know what to do. It may be harder to actually carry it out. And there could be a number of reasons why it's actually harder to carry it out. It could be you know what to do, but you don't know how to carry it out. Meaning you don't know how you're going to do this because either you've never done it before, or it's not that you don't have the knowledge on it, but you've never done it before. It could be new. It could be something you're trying. It could be you starting a business and you've never started a business before, but you got all the knowledge and information to start this business, but you have that hesitation to actually follow through and start that business. Well, we're not the only ones who struggle with this. So I want us to go to the first scripture of today's episode. I want us to go to Romans chapter 7, verse 19. NIV reads as follows. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. Now, to give you context, Paul is speaking, and I would encourage you to go and read Romans chapter 7, the whole chapter. And he is talking about the struggle that we have between our flesh and our spirit. And really and truly, it's a battle. So your spirit knows what you should be doing, but your flesh is having a difficult time carrying it out. So if we go back to the example of starting a business, you know what to do to start this business, but you're allowing fear, you're allowing anxiety, you're allowing uncertainty, you're allowing all these other things that God doesn't give us to stop you from actually following through on what you know to do. That's the battle. So you actually want to do it, but you're having a difficult time carrying it through because you have all these other things: fear, doubt, uncertainty. What if it doesn't work? How long will it take me to make a sale? But you have the knowledge, so you can proceed. You can take that next step. But there is that battle between knowing what to do and actually doing it. So let's define battle. A battle is a sustained fight between large organized armed forces. So let's break that down into an everyday sense definition. Fight or struggle. Determined, persistent. So like a fight or struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. So let's say that again. In everyday sense, a battle is a fight or a struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. And tenaciously means to be determined or persistent. So if we think about the battle between knowing what to do and actually doing it, what we are saying is we're fighting or struggling with knowing what to do and applying it. Actually taking that first step. And just to let you know, you're not alone in this. But I want us to dive deeper. I want us to get encouragement. I want us to get biblical wisdom, and biblical knowledge on how we should approach this battle. How should we approach this struggle that we're having between knowing what to do and actually doing it? So let's go to our second scripture of today's episode. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26, verse 41. NIV reads as follows: "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Now, Jesus is speaking here right before he's about to be crucified, and he's letting the disciples know a few things before he fulfills prophecy. And he is saying, you guys need to watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. So when I said in the definition of battle, and I said it in the everyday sense definition, it's a fight or struggle tenaciously to achieve or resist something. So in this case, Jesus is talking about not falling into temptation. So you have to resist something. And even when we talk about knowing what to do and actually doing it, you have to resist the fear, the doubt. You have to resist whatever is stopping you from taking action. And then the second part is where he tells you why you're having this struggle, why you're having this battle, is because the spirit is willing. So you have already made a decision that this is what you want to do. So let's go back to the example of starting a business. You've already decided you want to start a business, but you're not getting to the first step of doing that. So the flesh is weak. You know what to do, but you're not doing what you know to do. So his response was to watch and pray. That was his response. How do you approach the battle? Okay, you're seeing that you're struggling with carrying this through. So you need to pray, Lord, give me the strength. Give me the courage. You need to find the motivation to get to the other side, to win that battle against your flesh, to actually follow through on this. So in the case of temptation, to resist whatever is trying to make you fall into temptation. And when you're trying to do better, whatever is blocking you from doing better, you have to resist that so that you can cross over to the other side and achieve the goal that you have set. Now, I want us to think about another way to approach this. Because you could know what to do. You could have the step-by-step procedures. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. You could have it all spelled out for you. But you're still not doing what you know you should. Right? So let's go to our third scripture of today's episode. Let's go to James chapter 1, verse 22. NIV reads as follows: "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." So if you've already done the research, you've already done everything you need to know, you've obtained the facts, you have the information, you have acquired the skills, You spoke to someone, you spoke to a mentor who has started many businesses to walk you through what you need to do. Do not merely just listen to the instruction that was given. Actually do the instruction. So here, James was basically saying that as believers, we're not supposed to just merely listen to the word. Because when we do that, we're deceiving ourselves. We're actually given instruction on how to live life and how to approach life. Do what the word says. So in this instance, where we're talking about you can know better, you should do better, this is definitely something that is biblically based. It's not just about achieving goals. It's also about doing the right thing. Doing what you have been called to do. Doing what God has instructed you to do. And in the love mindset, which is the God is love mindset, you're approaching everything in love. So if you have been given the purpose of starting a business, which could eventually be your main source of income, your main source of financial freedom, it can create financial freedom and opportunities for other people because you'll have to hire people eventually. And it can have all these beautiful and positive effects if you just follow through on the instruction. Don't just hear the instruction, you obey the instruction, follow through, and do what it says. There is a reason why God has put this on your heart or has called you to do something. And the hesitation, that's not from him, because when God gives instruction, he gives it in a way that it is clear. It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel forced. It's an answer to your prayer. It's an answer to whatever problem you have had or you're having. So when you know better, you should do better, because it's going to resolve whatever issue or whatever it was that made you want to obtain the knowledge. So as you obtain knowledge, you don't obtain knowledge just to keep it and have it. You obtain knowledge to apply it. So just remember that in everything that you're doing everything in love. And at the same time, you're holding yourself accountable to that standard. You're holding yourself to the same boundaries that you are expecting other people to uphold as well. So if you know better, you should do better. And yes, there are some things we don't struggle with when it comes to this. We know better. You know, you're like, okay, well, if you want to save money for a vacation and you want to go on vacation and you got to save, you'll save money for the vacation. You know that if you don't save the money, you won't have the money for the vacation. So you say, you know what, that's easy. I know what I got to do. I'm going to apply it. Or you've probably done it before, so it's easy. But it can be difficult for things that you're doing for the first time. And as we proceed in this love mindset journey, we're coming to crossroads where we're about to do something we've never done before. So are there going to be things that you learn in this journey that you may have had wrong before? Like you may have thought, just saying whatever is on your mind was the right approach to have because you're being honest. But did you consider the person you're speaking to? Did you consider the person that has to hear what you're about to say? So there are times when we don't have a problem just moving forward. And then there are times when we do have a problem moving forward. So as you continue on this love mindset journey, there are some things that you're going to have to adjust. There are certain things that you're going to have to upgrade about yourself. And if this is all about, nourishing and flourishing your relationships, remember, relationships are meant to make you become a better version of yourself. So this is part of it. When you know better, you should do better. And the reason, let's get into this. And I want to prove this to you. But let me just say this first. Knowing better and not doing better has consequences. And I know in life, all of us has had it. All of us has had this experience at least once where you say, I knew it. I knew you. Something happens and you're like, I knew it. I knew I should have, da 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 da. You knew what to do, but you didn't do it. And now you're dealing with the consequences of not doing what you knew to do. So that means it could have been avoided. Let's say it's a negative outcome or a negative result. It could have been avoided because you knew what to do, but you didn't do it. So, yeah, once you know, you should do better. And at the same time, you're held to a higher standard now, because now that you know, you can't go back to not knowing. Like, they say once you know, you can't unknow. And that's really how this works. So, that battle that you're having is not negating the fact that you now know better, so you should do better. So let me take you to the fourth scripture of today's episode. Let's go to James chapter 4, verse 17. NIV reads as follows. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. So, like I was saying, and let's meditate on this for a minute. You know better, you should do better. So if you know the good you should be doing and don't do it, it is a sin for that person. So when I said previously that when you know better, you're held to a higher standard now. You know what to do and you're not doing it. It's like, I like to give examples, real life examples. Okay, so I remember when I was younger and my mom gave us chores. And she said these chores are to be done on a weekly basis. You could pick when you're going to do them, but they got to be done each week. And if it's not done, there's going to be some consequences. So, I did my chores, but there was, one time when I was more focused on hanging out with my friends and doing things like that, and I didn't really get to my chores. So I had made all these plans with my friends and everything, and I was like, okay, Mom, can I go to, and usually she would say yes, because my chores would have been done and all that. But that particular week, I was just hanging out with my friends. I wasn't really paying attention to my chores. I was slacking. I'm just going to keep it 100. I was slacking. And I said to my mom, and I just expected it to be an automatic yes. Can I go outside and, go to the movies and we're going to go hang out. And we were going to go hang out at King's Plaza. And she was like, did you do your chores? And automatically, like, it was out of my mind. It was like, I didn't even think about chores. And I said, no, I didn't do my chores. Well, she was like, well, you can't go until your chores is done. So Long story short, I had already asked too late. It was too close to the time that we had to go. Needless to say, I didn't go to the movies with my friends, and I didn't get to hang out in Kings Plaza. I had to do those chores. But you know what I learned from that situation? I learned now that she gave me the chores. She told me these chores had to be done every week. She gave the instruction. So I couldn't be upset with my mom, even though I was upset because I felt like I could have did the chores after I came back. Like, it didn't have to be done at that moment. Of course, you're thinking as a child. But the principle is, she wasn't on me. She didn't say while she was seeing me not do the chores during the week, hey, you ain't do the chores. She just let me go on about my business. And she said, when the deadline comes up, I'm going to let her know you didn't do it. So you can't do anything until you get this done. So even though I was upset that I missed out, what I learned was I got to handle my business. If I want to do what I want to do, I need to handle my business. I need to make sure I do my chores, get that done. And then when I ask to go out, there will be nothing blocking me from going to hang out with my friends. Now, that was just an example. But you can't get upset when there's consequences to you not doing what you were supposed to do. I mean, I could use numerous examples. Even if we think about work and you having a boss and your boss gives you a deadline, you have to think about all these things. So when you know better, you should do better. I could talk about being in college, having an exam, and you knew you had to study, and you trying to go you can't hang out. You're going to fail that exam. You better study, stay home and study. So there are things when you know you should do it, just do it. Just do it. Don't sit there and be like, oh, I'll get to it later. Wait, you don't know when them consequences is coming. You don't know. You don't know when them consequences is coming. And I know I'm using basic examples, but in life, you don't know when those consequences. But in life, you don't know when those consequences are coming. They can come at any time. And you could say, you know what, tomorrow. And you don't get that opportunity and something happens tomorrow. You're like, I knew it. I knew I should have. You don't want to have that moment. You don't want to have that moment. If you know the good you should do, just do it. You don't want to be in that category of, well, you knew what to do and you didn't do it. And that's the consequence of not doing what you know you should do. And you don't know when that time is running out. You don't know when, okay, well, now since you didn't do it, this is the result of this is the outcome. You didn't do it. So let's say we go back to the example of starting a business. Now you're trying to start the business, and the rules for starting this business have changed. Now they've made it more strict. They've made it harder for people to enter the market, etc. Now there's all this red tape, whereas before, if you had did it at the time that you initially wanted to do it, you would have avoided all of that, because you would have been grandfathered in to the original rules to start that business. Now you got to go through all these other extra steps because you waited, because you had that hesitation. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen in all situations, because again, you don't know what's going to happen. That same uncertainty that's stopping you from starting a business, everyone's uncertain. But sometimes you got to move, in faith and just say, you know what? God's put this on my heart to start this business, or I'm feeling a sense of urgency to start this business now. You don't know why. You don't know why. And you may not even need to know why. But you said this is what you wanted to do. Do it. So that brings me to the last and final scripture of today's episode. So let's go to John chapter 13, verse 17. NIV reads as follows. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So if you want some encouragement, some motivation to do better after you know better, that's the result of doing what you know you should do. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. You know the good you ought to be doing. Do it. You don't want to miss out. And yes, I know they have that phrase, FOMO, fear of missing out. But you don't want to miss your blessing because you were stuck in the battle longer than you should have been stuck in that battle. You were struggling to resist the fear, to resist the doubt, to resist the uncertainty. You were struggling to take the next step to achieve the goal. In relationships, you know you have work you need to do in your relationship, but you're putting it off. You're like, tomorrow. You don't know when that person is ready to walk out the door. You don't know if this person wants to fight for this relationship the way you do. And it could be that they're waiting for you to take the first step. For you to give that olive branch and say, you know what? I want to apologize for how I've treated you. Or I want to apologize for how I approached this situation. You don't know what the other person is thinking. They could be walking out the back door. And you know, I'm laughing, but I'm like, that's how serious it is. When you know better, you should do better. And I'm not laughing at none of the situations. I'll be the first to raise my hand. There were times when I knew better and I didn't do better. And guess what? I had to suffer the consequences like everybody else. No one's exempt from that. When you know better, you should do better. And there's no harm or foul. If you start the business and it doesn't work out, guess what? You know what not to do when you start the next business. Or you know what not to do to improve the chances of the success of your business. So knowledge and wisdom go together. When you know better, you have to apply what you know. Because the result is you will be blessed for doing so. That uncertainty, that fear, that doubt, it goes away once you keep your motivation up. Once you keep your inspiration up, it goes away. Even if, I want to say this, some of the most successful people have heard no 1,000 times, have heard it's not going to work 1,000,000 times. I mean, I could go on and on. Have failed multiple times. That didn't stop them Yes, it is a struggle to know better and do better. Not too much a struggle to know better, but to do it, to actually do it. There is a struggle. But you have to remind yourself that you're about the result. You have to remind yourself, this is what you're going after. If it's a successful business, it shouldn't be enough to stop you because one person, 2 people, 20 people said no. It shouldn't be enough to stop you. So just know, when you feel like you're being hesitant, and it's not coming from your source of faith, you shouldn't do this. It's coming from you because of the uncertainty, the doubt, the fear, the anxiety, all the things that you're placing on yourself. Let me put it to you this way. I like to say it this way. You didn't go through all the trouble to obtain the facts, obtain the information, acquire the skills, to let a few setbacks stop you from continuing and pressing on. And when it comes to relationships, when you know better and do better, it shows that you value the relationship. It shows that you care about the person or the people you're in the relationship with. It speaks volumes. And action speaks louder than words. I could say all day, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. And I could hear my husband laughing if he's listening to this episode. Because he's like, and she didn't go to the gym. That's exactly what he would say. She didn't go. I could know better. Let's talk about me for a minute. I could know better and not do it. There's a consequence for that. I didn't go to the gym, so I didn't get fit. There's a reason I'm wanting to go to the gym. As I'm getting older, I want to maintain my fitness level. I want to be able to see my children have children. There's a personal reason why I want to go to the gym. I want to be fit. I want to maintain health. But I can't keep saying, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym. And then don't go to the gym. So let's tie it all together. In conclusion, the point is, do not feel alone that you are struggling with doing better after you know what you should be doing. What I'm saying to you is, we all struggle with that to a certain level. But you need to know what to do to get out of that struggle, out of that battle. And what you need to do is you need to assess the situation and go back to your source of faith and figure out what your source of faith says to do in this situation. My source of faith says, watch and pray. Assess the situation, pray on it, so that you do not fall for the tricks of fear, the tricks of doubt and anxiety that's stopping you from doing what you need to do. Don't just merely hear the instructions. Do what it says. You obtained the knowledge. You got the facts, information. You acquired the skills. You spoke to a mentor. You have the step-by-step process on what you need to do. Do it. Because if you don't do what you know you ought to be doing, it is sin. And you're going to have a consequence for that. The consequence could be you missed the opportunity. The consequence could be this was the thing that you needed to have money for something else. Let's say starting a business. This would have provided an income opportunity that you would have been able to handle some emergency expense or emergency that comes up. I'm just trying to motivate you and show you. We all struggle with this, and you're going to overcome it in your own time. But this is how you approach it. Be doers of what you know you should do. Don't just know what to do and don't do it. Understand that the battle is because you know you should do it, so your mind wants to do it, but your body is saying, I don't want to go to the gym. Once your mind wins that battle, guess what? Your body's going to be going to the gym. And the result is going to be a blessing. Your body's going to look great. Your health is going to improve. Because you did what you know you should. So I thank you for spending this time with me. And I hope that today's episode gave you value. When you know better, you should do better. And just know that if you're struggling to actually take that first step, you're not alone, and you will overcome this. Don't lose faith. Don't get discouraged. Don't feel like it can't happen for you. All you need to do is continue to fight in that battle. Pray to the Lord. Go back to your source of faith and say, what do I need to do to move forward with this plan? So don't feel like you have to figure it out today, but know that you have to figure it out. It's a battle. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. You have to feed your spirit. You have to let your spirit win over the flesh. You have to subdue your flesh. You know, I read a statistic the other day, and it says that, and I was like, what do you mean? Okay, let me just say the phrase, the statistic. It was saying that our brains are naturally lazy, and that we like to do things that we already know how to do. So things that we already have mastered and done, we like to repeat those. It requires more energy and work to do something you don't know how to do, or that you've never done. So even after getting the information, getting the skills, getting the facts, getting the step-by-step, the play, you still don't proceed because your brain is like, you know what? This is too hard. I don't know if I could do this. That's what you're battling. And when I say your brain, I don't mean, It's like you know that phrase that they say your mind's playing tricks on you. It's like you're thinking of all the things that could go wrong. But why do we default to that? Why can't we go to all the things that could go right? So just think about that as you meditate on this. And again, if today's episode gave you value, feel free to give the video a thumbs up, the podcast a thumbs up, share it with somebody so that they know, hey, you're not alone in this. And this is how you can approach this battle. And again, thank you for spending time with me. Go spend time with your loved ones. Enjoy your family and friends. And just know that we're in this together. We're in this love mindset journey together. And the goal here is to cultivate healthy and beautiful relationships. Life is meant to be lived. It's not meant to be spectated from the side. So do the inner work that you have to do and cultivate your relationships. And in your relationships, when you know better, do better. It's for everyone's good. And it's going to be a blessing to you and to those around you. So as always, thank you for spending this time with me. And I hope you continue to have a beautiful day. And just know that I love you guys. And I will speak to you in the next episode. And remember to let your love light shine everywhere that you go. Love you guys. Take care.